Start the party!
Hey guys, it's your boy Roy and welcome to another video of God of War on Pain challenge run stuff. Let's dig into Athens. Now, basically what we're gonna do here first is this is an encounter where I do use magic. Because as far as I know, it's forced. Now there might be some guy online who's like, oh no, but I tried this fight for quite a while and was like, couldn't figure out how to do it without magic. Because basically what you have to do is one of those enemies needs to stand on a platform and hold it down so you can open the gate, and then you use that gate to, well, go to the next area. First off, we've also got our introduction to the Minotaur Hammer Grunts. Here you see me freezing him. Generally a pretty easy enemy. Their most dangerous attack is their Hammer Slam, which they will instigate with a loud roar. Which has a shockwave. It's always one hit, meaning it's not part of a combo. And the shockwave is the most dangerous part. But if you stay close enough to them, the shockwave, that's actually a nice little detail to it. The shockwave instigates from the tip of the hammer. So if they hit you, the hammer sort of clips through you if you block it. And the shockwave will happen behind you. Now, this is a pretty big failing on my part. In this fight, what you have to do, generally you can best just kill everything because it's not that hard. But I was like, nah, I want to skip it. And you see me getting absolutely manhandled here. And you have to break up this wall at the end before you can continue. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to grab this guy, slam him into it. Doesn't work. Quickly try to open it, use the camera abuse because off-screen enemies don't do shit. And what's coming up next is just stupidity. I'm really sorry. I wanted to keep this one in. Because I failed to grab the rope a lot of times. I'm like, oh, maybe you can attack her from down here. And I'm like, nah, that's not working. Gotta go back up there. And I really wanted to keep my deaths to a minimum. Just for the fun of it. There you saw the slam. And me blocking it really up close. Here I'm testing like, you know, maybe it can freeze me through walls, but it can't. Even though the raid does hit you. Here I'm like, alright, now I got it. Alright, just gotta be safe from that beam or else I might freeze, you know, during the jump on the rope. So I go, jump. It's like giving me the tutorial prompt on how to swing the rope. I'm like, yay, got it. And I miss. Oh, that's so stupid. And this is only the beginning. Like, it's only gonna get worse. There you see me quickly dodge back to avoid the slam. And I wanted to keep this in. If only because it makes me seem human. Like I look like a complete idiot here. So apologies if that's not your thing, but I really had a lot of fun watching and editing this part. Other than that, I'm a happy man. This chapter really scared me going in because it was the part where I had a lot of struggles during my Nur Plus run. I still have to edit all those video titles, but that's something I'm gonna do when I come back from vacation. Because I'm recording this before I go on holiday. I'm going in a few days. But yeah, a lot of parts here gave me a lot of difficulty. Namely the freezing part, but also the upcoming fight against the two, what are they called? Cyclops Grunts? You know, thinking like, oh, I'm going to swing back. Yeah, make a really big swing. And then I clip on the platform. Like, what the fuck? I don't remember that. So I jump back on. Like, I take one big more swing. And go like, yay! Nope. It's little things like that. So I think I quit here and I'm gonna be like, okay, I just climb up slowly, and then swing. So stupid. But yeah, the engagement coming up is 3 Cyclops Grunts, and that name, I actually discussed it with Big V. I think it was a couple of days ago in a comment section. I never really understood the naming of certain enemies. For instance, the Cyclops Enforcer is the one we encountered before, which has the ball and chain that it can use as a sort of a projectile. And this is the Grunt, so obviously it's lower rank, but it has like triple the HP. Not the exact number, but it has a lot more. In fact, you need to do at least, I think, 3 quote-unquote QTEs on him to kill him. But the first encounter is pretty generous. You got infinite villagers running around that when killed drop green orb, so you've got basically infinite health. The only reason you should die here is by either doing something really stupid, getting comboed, or just getting overconfident or not killing enough humans, which is always a sin in my book. You know, you should always kill every civilian that you see in video games, especially if you're the bad guy like Kratos. Wow, I sound like a complete fucking psychopath. Sorry about that. I'm not gonna be able to redeem that now, am I? I think that's a nice part about being completely unnoticed and unknown. Even though the block's doing well, I can just say whatever I want. Nobody gonna judge me, I hope. I mean, yeah, you don't know. Alright, general tactics for these guys. Sorry about that. They don't have the dash attack. That's the other variant. What these guys have, they have a couple of slams, and they have a sweep, and they have a foot stomp. The foot stomp, there you see the regular stomp. You can't block that. It will go through your block. The stomp is also unblockable. And there's a grab, which you can block, I believe. That's a stomp, and the stomp is always followed by a smash. And he has a sweeping motion. I'm not sure if I'm going to showcase it in this video. But basically what the sweeping motion means is he will basically sweep his hammer thing around. There you see the first QTE. Just slam dunk his head into the floor, and then it will do some damage and give you some red orbs, which is nice if you're on that type of run. But what the sweeping attack does is, I've seen it go on forever. Like, he will just sweep from left to right, left to right, left to right for ad nauseum until I got close. So you really want to be careful with that. Generally speaking, what you can do here is you can sort of infinite him by using SST or just a subtle variant of that, because the plume, like the explosion of that, stun locks him. And you can get him into a minor stun lock. The only thing that will get him out of it is if he instigates an attack, because they have hyper armor during their attacks, meaning they can just tough through your moves. So if he's attacking and you're attacking, he's going to kick your ass. Unless you're doing a hyper armor move as well, but I'm not really sure Kratos has one of those. Here you see the grab glitching out, which is always good fun, and I get smacked for my troubles. That's really one big thing you need to learn about this game, and it's something I'm not learning because I'm just a stubborn little fool. There you see the sweeping attack, but I run off camera so you don't really see it. Is that if you see a big giant circle above an enemy's head, you grab him and the grab whiffs, forget about it. Don't even bother. You might try repositioning and try it from a different angle after you wait a bit, but chances are it's just bugged out and you just gotta quit. And I don't mean quit the game or quit life or quit your job. I just mean give up on the idea of ever landing that QTE on that singular enemy. Another really boring tactic that you can use, which I'm sort of using because I just hate this guy. He would be a lot easier, a lot more fun to fight if Kratos' role was a bit more, in my personal opinion, a bit more easy to direct and had a little less recovery. Like if he had like the Ninja Gaiden dodge or something like that, quick roll, like, or a sidestep or a slide. Because those big hits, they have a pretty big hitbox, and the shockwave coming from it has the same stuff going on. I think this is the second slam, like bam, and then he's dead. And now there's two of them. I really like this from a concept point. You really first got to prove yourself that you know how to fight one of them, and then here's the second one. So now you got to juggle them. General tactic still for me is I just run around and use square, 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 triangle, which is the big finisher, which deals a lot of damage. Even the shockwave deals enough. You can just use that ad nauseum. And as I said, you have infinite healing. What is on showcase here as well is here you see like they'll stagger, and you just repeat it, even if it sometimes hits them off screen or the targeting is not that good. Which was a point I wanted to talk about, which is the targeting and the auto targeting in itself. God of War doesn't have a lock-on feature, and I think that's mostly because they want the game to be accessible to all types of players. And there's one thing that's not really interesting about a video game, it's holding down a lock-on button. But what this does is that Kratos sometimes will just have a will of his own. He will automatically target the nearest enemy regardless of priority, and you can sort of adjust the aiming direction, but in other instances he will just be like, no, I'm just gonna attack this villager. And it's this type of thing that a lot of games in this genre still have, even to my amazement. Even crowned favorites like Ninja Gaiden still have this problem. Like, to a pretty big extent. Trying to redirect an ultimate technique in Ninja Gaiden is really difficult, and sometimes extremely luck-based. In other instances, hitting certain attacks or attacking certain foes in Devil May Cry can be quite cumbersome. The only game that I really found actually to make it really easy is God Hand. Not easy, but at least once you know what you're doing, you can do it consistently. Games like Bayonetta also sort of managed to figure it out, as did Devil May Cry 4. Even in 3 you sometimes had some issues. So yeah, it's just a weird little mechanic. It's always bothered me a little bit, because you really want that full control. I still remember in Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, you could play as Rachel. And Rachel had her ultimate technique was the shockwave. And I always wanted to really direct it like at the boss or something, and then there was a minion nearby, and she just directed at the minion because he was closer. But I'm like, if I aimed it to the right, I would hit both the minion and the boss, but the minion was a little bit somewhere else, and so it doesn't work. And I'm like, why is that a thing? I don't know. Might be easier to code, might just be weird little things, I don't know. One thing that I do enjoy, even while watching this game, there you see them, if they run after you, stop and then roll away. Don't do what I do and stop and just stop, because they'll run after you forever. They'll never stop. They are never tired. But what I want to say is, when looking at this game, what I like is that if you do a certain animation, it doesn't zoom in too far. You always got this overview of the battlefield, technically speaking, and that's something a lot of games miss these days. Again, grabbing for instance Ninja Gaiden 2, a lot of the ultimate attacks and decapitations, obliterations, and all that kind of jazz, the camera zooms in really bad, but you also can't rotate the camera. So you're always, like, those moments. I remember in Ninja Gaiden 3, God bless its soul for being an absolute abomination, well, you had like these co-op missions, and those were really long with big waves, and you really wanted to obliterate, which was a sort of you had to press a button, kind of like what I'm doing here. Like an enemy is weakened, you press a button and you kill him. Except he doesn't have a shiny button above his head, that's the only difference. And what happens is the camera zooms in so bad, but you're completely in iframes during that. But you still want to get like an overview of the battlefield, thinking like, okay, what's happening like at this time? Are they attacking my partner? What type of enemy is close to me? But instead, what would happen is the game would zoom in so badly that you can't see anything. And the second the animation ends, you're quickly like, what's going on? And then like 5 bombs suddenly appear next to you, and you're like, oh crap. It's that type of thing that I always feel like you should be able to rotate the camera during that, or zoom out. And they are learning from this. Neo actually has a button for this in the menu that says, I think it's called Action Cam or something like that you can switch off. Meaning, for instance, certain parries have this very flashy animation, but if you turn it off, it still has the animation, but the camera movement doesn't happen, so it doesn't extremely zoom in and stuff like that. You can still rotate the camera while doing it. It's just an overall good experience. I still ironically keep it on because Neo is fucking easy. And sometimes it screws up with my visual confirmation, like did I land the parry, yes or no. But it's still good that developers are using it. So I sound really weird now, like, oh, I really want this feature in the game, and this game has the feature and I'm not using it. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, that's just the way it is. Alright, we got this one down. As you saw, it's just, I'm just taking them away. There's always like easier, I'm really fucking it up. And I'm really also doing that because there's just such a big safety net. I think it would have been a good idea that the first one there's villagers, and the second one the villagers don't respawn, like if the double pack arrives. That would have been better, I believe, at least on the higher difficulty setting. Because really right now I'm just like, I don't really care if that's a... It's not, I don't mean that in the sense I don't care about playing, but I care like, I don't really care about getting hit. I mean, oh no, I got hit because I wanted to get a few extra hits, and I'll just heal up by killing villagers. And then we slam dunk him, and he's dead. Yay! Up next is some pointless padding, where you have to run through an entire area, and then reach the end, and then go all the way back again. And you see me sometimes stopping here like, weren't there enemies here? And I'm like, oh yeah. I like this scene. I like this scene a lot. For the simple reason that it sort of showcases people's fear of Kratos. She's running away from him, and he's killing all the bad guys and some civilians. But his reputation definitely precedes him, and you're like, what did he do to warrant this? And it's a nice little build-up. I'm really still impressed for an action game how well this story was written, and how much love is poured into it, into the development of the character of Kratos. But also, like, a lot of games just shove it in your face. Like, this is the character, this is what he did. A lot of games these days, when they were made, with just have started with, this goes to Sparta after he killed his family and blah blah blah, but now he seeks revenge. And instead it sort of pads it out. And it isn't until, I think, about 3/4 into the game that you really know his motivations, which I find really brave. Now here we have our shielded buddies. Unique about these guys is that they can, one, as you can see here, glitch out completely, but they have a shield, and the shield can only be destroyed by a plume, which is the explosion you just saw there. But generally speaking, these type of enemies that you see here, I think they're called, the Cursed Legionnaires, they can't be grabbed. Like, you have to weaken them for a moment. They have to be like in a sort of a weakened state. Yet these guys can be, this can be done to them, even if they're not in a weakened state. So it's a nice little mechanic, and it's very considerate of them, but I also would have wished they would have communicated this better. Now what I'm doing here is, you can just stay over here, because the Medusas will never go down for some reason. They will never go down on you. Ah, that's a shame. No, but they will never go down here for some reason. So what I did is I quickly lured them here so I could throw some of the Legionnaires at them for nice damage. Trying to see if I can launch her. And then just that happens. I'm like, okay, I'll just replenish my magic then, I guess. Which still is pretty low because of the Medusa head. Because I was wondering, why is my magic low? I'm not supposed to use magic, but it's the Medusa head. And now it gives me the tutorial. Like, oh, you should use the plume. Here you see me grabbing them. It would have been nice that if you break the shield, they have like a circle above their heads. I mean, if the game's already going to be a casual friendly fest, I might as well do that. Throw that guy over there. And I have no idea where he went. I think he got hit by the throw. Wait for the shots. And for some reason, I roll back. I don't know. Fuck him up. Yeah, there's a couple of extra enemies down there and a reward. I don't bother on it right now because I'm like, ah, fuck, it's a pain run. I'm just going to kill what I need to kill and get this over with. Because I was really in this run with mixed feelings. On the one side, I really wanted to do it, you know? I really wanted to... Oh, sorry, I missed that save. I always try to edit all that stuff out. I really wanted to do it because I just finished my pain, Nur run, no upgrade run, and I was like, yeah, let's do pain. But I'm also like, yeah, I'm not gonna torture myself with excessive fights. And I'm like, this fight is optional. Why am I even bothering with it? Here we get introduced to, I think they're called the Wraiths, and for some reason, I remember the first time playing, I found these enemies really difficult. And first time playing, I mean years ago. And that's because I didn't realize that you can grab these enemies. And of course, there's the experimentation factor to it. But with something as tactic, by the way, is go upstairs first. Because that fight is harder, in my opinion, than the downstairs fight. And you can just use this little exploit. Yay, exploits. Slam dunk them in that shit. Haha. Is that sometimes it's, of course it's experimentation, but it's really unclear sometimes which enemies you can grab and which ones you can't. For instance, the Wraiths have an armor that looks pretty like the ones that the Cursed Legionnaires have. So you're like, okay, I probably need to weaken them first before I can grab them. That's not true. You can still grab them, whereas other enemies that look like they can be grabbed can't. So it's always like this memorization, like just first time you see an enemy, you just walk over them, press the grab button and see if it works. Same with air grabs. Like right now I just quickly gotta jump over and make them come out. That's what she said. For instance, the Cerberus enemy, you can air grab the guy. Like, I would not have known this if I didn't just try it out. And we're like, oh, you can just air infinite him. Why is that a thing? The game is filled with weird little things like that, but I do like that there's a dedicated grab button. It's really interesting that Devil May Cry tried to copy that of all games with Nero. And it did it excellently, I have to say. Like, Nero's a really fun character to play around with, especially for newcomers. I think that's actually, Nero is really like DMC Devil May Cry done right. Like, it's a casual approach, but it still also pleased a lot of hardcore fans, and it also, of course, had Dante in it as an extra character. Why am I talking about Devil May Cry suddenly? I'm sorry, guys. Should be talking about this fight, but these guys are easy. You can just stay to his right, and then he'll never ever hit you. I think I'm starting to figure that out here. I'm like, wait a minute, why do I even roll? When he does the slam dunk, you can just use the most strongest combo you have, because he stays stuck in the floor for pretty long. If you go over that edge, there's actually a hidden chest. I didn't bother with it because pain run. Ah, fuck him up. I never get tired of these animations. I think that's, speaking as a sort of animator myself, I'm more of an art director, but in animation. It's really interesting to see how these things are animated, like these special grabs. I'm fucking up the motion here. But what you really want to do when you do an animation that repeats itself over and over and over, you want to make it snappy. And that's something a lot of games sometimes forget. Sorry about that. Like if you look at, for instance, fighting games with their super moves and ultra moves, they generally just take too long. Like, I remember, I think it was Seth's Ultra in Street Fighter 4. It just lasted for like a solid 20 seconds. That's way too long. Like, look at this grab. That's like 3 to 4 seconds of just pure brutality. But it's quick, it's snappy, like, BAM! Smacks him down on the ground, throws that arm in him, it's over. That's just really crisp. Like, 1, 2, let's check, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, about 4 seconds. Like, he could have done that slam dunk on the ground a bit faster, like that. He throws him off his shoulder on the ground. But it's still a lot faster than a lot of games do it. Which is the way it's supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to be interesting, because you're going to do it the entire game. Like, this ground going, whoop, bam, and he's gone. Like, if it was Street Fighter, that move would take forever. And that's one of the reasons I really like the older Street Fighters better. Because, for instance, the super animations are just a lot more fun to look at. They're not as extravagant or over the top, but they're quick, they're nice, they have this little cool sound effect to them. And they're like, bam, 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 and it's over, you know? Same with the one from Hugo in Street Fighter 3, where he like does 1, 2, 3, and it's just really fast compared to a lot of ultras you see these days. And I remember a couple of ones in Street Fighter 4 are really fun to look at. For like the first 10 times, you're like, whoa, that one looks really brutal. I don't know if you can, like, you can Google it, but T-Hawk's Ultra 2 from Ultra Street Fighter 2, like, that move looks brutal. Like, he grabs the enemy out of the sky and just uses him as like a sack and smacks him on the ground. Looks so brutal and so badass. But yeah, the 20th time you're like, oh, just get it over with. It's the same with fatalities. You see it in tournaments too. Like, nobody uses the fatalities because A, they take too much time, and B, like, you've seen them 20 times and they took so long, you're like, oh, just whatever. I think the brutalities are a really smart idea. I think those were in Mortal Kombat 10, X, XL, whatever. That's just a really cool little concept. I think it meant, like, if an enemy died against a certain move, he would get this special quick death animation, like of him splitting apart or something like that. And it's those little things that a lot of animators need to struggle with, because they generally get from their art director like a command, like, make this really cool animation, and then sometimes in their enthusiasm they forget to actually make it short and snappy so that it doesn't get boring. Like, for instance, I think it's the Minotaur one where you have to mash circle. Sometimes that one can get a bit grating because you're like, oh, I've done this so many times, and you've mashed circle so many times. It's something like the sort of negating the mundane tasks is something games should learn from. I don't know if anybody here has ever played Earthbound, but here I get fucked up, by the way. How I survived this, I have no idea. Earthbound is an RPG from Nintendo. Excellent game. But one of the reasons that I really liked it is that it scrapes away a lot of mundane tasks, because what it does is, like any other RPG, you have random battles, which is fine. But what it does is, if you reach a certain level, for instance, you're like level 10 or something, and you get a random encounter that's like level 8, I believe, or lower, the game will just give you a message saying like, you had an encounter and you won, you got this much experience. Because it doesn't want to pad you out. It doesn't want to be like, okay, you're 2 levels higher than these guys. They're gonna die horribly. Like, why would I even waste your time with that? And I think that's an excellent mindset. I really think that games should try to do that a bit more. So, for instance, like maybe if you've encountered like a Minotaur, a Grunt at the end of the game, don't have the QTE. Just keep it out. Just automatically like smash him on the ground, and Kratos, because he's more experienced now or whatever, just slams him on the ground, shoves that axe up his mouth, and you get the orbs. The end. Yeah, I just believe that should be the case sometimes with certain actions, like especially the ones that take more time to execute. Yeah, just a mechanic I always liked in Earthbound. This fight itself against all these legionnaires can get a bit hairy, especially sometimes they can do the grab, but it's always hard to find an opening because they have hyper armor during that jump attack. So what can happen is one does it, you block it, you try to punish it, and then the other comes around and it's like, oh my god, just give me an opening for that infinite air grab, as we see here. So that can be a bit tiring, but overall I do like this enemy. I like it. I like to fight it, but what I do feel is that what it lacks is some sort of offensive or a way to sort of back it up. Because right now it's just got that one attack, and later on they're going to get the little stab that doesn't really have a clear indication when it's starting. But I really feel like these guys don't really add a lot. Like, they're fun to fight, don't get me wrong, but especially in the larger engagements, like, yeah, they're more like they're ammo, you know, to throw around at your enemies, than that they're an actual threat to you later on. They're just an annoyance. I feel that's something a lot of games try to avoid. Bayonetta 2 tried it, to have like a buff type enemy, but the only thing it does is if you have a support enemy, you either focus on him first so that he doesn't support anymore, or you just ignore him, and then when everything's dead, he's helpless. So it's a really hard type of enemy to get right. I'm not really sure how they could have improved that. Now we just do a little puzzle thingy, and yay, puzzle thingy. Shoot the thing, and then we get Zeus's Fury, which we're actually going to use once to shoot some idiots out of the way. Apparently there's a way to glitch past it, but I couldn't find it in my quick Google search. One thing I really like about this game is these type of cutscenes, where you actually talk to the gods. They really showcase them, like, hey, this is Zeus, this is Athena, Aphrodite. They really show like that you're like working for these larger than life creatures with their big mysterious heads, and they give you these powers sort of on a loan. I'm probably going to comment on this again, but in the one of the final cutscenes, Kratos actually uses one of these powers in the cutscene, which I remember the first time watching that, I was really surprised, because a lot of times there's a big difference in what's canon and thus actually happened in the cutscenes and what happens in games. Generally very different. Like a very simple example is Dante in Devil May Cry 1. He has a lot of weapons, but in the cutscenes he actually only has Alistair. And he might not even have that. He might just have Force Edge the entire run through, because Alistair never gets mentioned again. It's like he never had it. Same with the shotgun and the grenade launcher and the harpoon rifle. Like, it's never really mentioned that he had those weapons. You never see him use them in any of the cutscenes. Yeah, here Kratos comes and he just uses one of his magical abilities, which I find a nice little nod. Like, Vanquish did this as well in the final cutscene, where just before the final boss he uses all the weapons, even though that's impossible because he can only have 3, and he doesn't use the DLC weapons, which is a shame. But that's always a nice little feature to sort of give that idea Another thing that's weird is, for instance, Dante in Devil May Cry is supposed to be immortal. Basically, like, he can be stabbed by a sword and does nothing to him. I remember in the original cutscene from Devil May Cry 3, in the intro, he gets stabbed to pieces and he just walks it off. And then the game begins, you get hit like 2 times and he's dead. So there's that difference between what's canon, like in the universe, and what happens in the gameplay. It's sort of, I think they call it dissociative significance. I don't know. There's a term for it. Sort of about like how do you call it? For instance, Uncharted, I think, was a really big example of this. Like the main character is like this goofball, this funny, likable guy. But if you look at the gameplay, he's a mass murderer. Like, he kills hundreds of people in just one game, let alone all 4. He's probably killed more than like 1,500 people. The guy's a complete psychopath. Same goes for Tomb Raider, where she's like, "Oh no, I killed a deer," and then a few seconds later, she's like blowing heads off of people, and it's like, it's so the gameplay doesn't coincide with what's happening on screen. And how did I get to that? Oh yeah, because he has Zeus's Fury. There's a lot of stuff here that's optional. You want to be really careful with this QT here, by the way. I showed it in my no upgrade run, but what can happen is the QTE can push the enemy off the edge, which is not fun, let me tell you, because then you die. It's still funny, though. I actually quite liked it. If you go back, there's also a lot of extras, like chests and stuff, but fuck all that. This is actually the first time that I play the game that I get Zeus's Fury before I go here. Every time in my life I would just walk over here first and like, oh yeah, I gotta get Zeus's Fury. Oh, I forgot about that. So yeah, that. Alright, now with the bridge out of the way, I actually don't really remember what's next. I think it's a bunch of Wraith fights. Is it? I think it is. Smash them pots, yeah. Speaking of pots, like, my mind is going places right now. Yeah, here, just use the grab. Like, sometimes you can grab the, when you grab them, you throw them in the air and you do the super jump. You can do like square, square, triangle, and then bounce them off the ground. The danger is that you're not in iframes. So if there's more than one, chances are you're going to get smacked out of the ground and back into the pavement. I think I might do it a couple of times here. Nah, I'm probably being really careful. What I want to say is pots. Again, no idea why I'm talking about this. But if there's one thing that I always find interesting about media and YouTubers in general, but mostly the media, is how they can grab something and really focus on it and turn it into like this article piece. It's one of the reasons why comic book movies are so successful as they are right now, because I think Movie Bob did despite my misgivings about him sometimes, that I don't really like his content, he had a video on that Marvel movies and comic movies in general are successful because there's so much to write about. Like, for instance, right now, if there was a movie announced like, hey, there's this movie going to be made and there's Michael Keaton in it. Okay, what can you write? You can write the trailer was announced. You can maybe do a piece on Keaton's acting history, maybe. And maybe a little prediction about, what's the movie about? Something, but considering it's a standalone movie, you can't really take any guesswork. As far as you know, it's going to have a plot twist halfway through and it's going to turn into a Lovecraftian horror story, which would be cool. And with a comic book movie, like, he used the example of, I think it was Nova. But let's just say, like, they'll now announce, there's going to be, let me think of an obscure superhero that I really like. The Doom Patrol, my favorite superheroes. Real story, like, they're from DC though, but whatever. My favorite superheroes. And they announce it, like, you have the articles of who's the Doom Patrol, what are their iterations, who's gonna be the villain, it's gonna be this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Well, let's talk about the histories of all this. Hey, there was this one thing in the trailer, what does it mean? Like, let's go through the comics. Oh, it's a reference to that, maybe it's a story. Like, they can write a lot of stuff about that. And what I found, and how did I get to this from POTS, is the whole Again, just smack these guys around. Yeah, I'm supposed to be talking strategy here, but I'm probably going to do that only when there's really specific examples that need to be talked about. Because right now I don't even know where I am. Oh yeah, I'm going to go to that puzzle thingy. What I want to say, the pots is, I stumbled across a video that was about the newest God of War game that's coming out next year, the reboot, the story-driven cinematic walkie-talkie game. And it was about, hey guys, really exciting news. I found out that there's a vase or a statue somewhere in the God of War trailer that's of Egyptian heritage. So Egyptian mythology is in the God of War universe, confirmed, blah, blah. And then this like 10-minute video talking about that and posting it on Twitter and Reddit, because that's how I found it. I'm like, why is this a big deal? Like, they make news out of everything, dude. It's both funny and a bit scary at times. I'm like, really? People watch this? And then later on he made another video that he found like this really obscure link to like, oh, this means that. And the game, I'm all for speculating. But you can take it a bit too far. I remember, I think it was with Bloodborne, when the game wasn't even announced yet. It was originally called Beast Souls, like that was the how it was spoiled. Oh, I gotta talk about this fight. Sorry, I'll put my conversation on hold. These harpies have the bomb attack, and the easy way to avoid that bomb attack is by rolling. Now, I'm not sure how this is coded, but basically to do the bomb attack, they need to target onto you. So they're going to do a scream, and then they're going to sort of fly over to you and fall down. It's unblockable, and it has pretty decent tracking. So you need to dodge at quite a last second. But for some reason, if you roll, like just keep on rolling, so I attack, and then I roll again. There, you see it. They will never do it. And I don't know why that is. So that's pretty important to note. You can use the Medusas here to actually freeze these harpies and kill them. I'm doing a really piss poor job at that right now. And I tried to air grab him, but there you go with the priority again. And there I got really clobbered. I thought maybe I can grab her again and get in the iframes and avoid the blast, but that did not happen. And I remember being pretty pissed about it too, because there's no really health refill. And after this you have to do a pretty, it's not a scary bit, but you have to whip. You have to move some statues out of the way while you're being attacked, and it basically meant that one attack would kill me. Whoop. But yeah, what I want to talk about was how, like with Beast Souls, the Bloodborne game, people were already speculating, where does it fit in the lore? What is the timeline? Oh, I see this. What does that mean? Like, wait for the game, dude. Like, you have these speculations. But if it's one thing that I always miss in these conversations is that people are actually interested in it. Like, they're not. A lot of times, like, the people that make these videos, they're just in it for the views. They're, like, when a good example is Dragon Ball Super, the anime that's running right now. If you're gonna go YouTube, like, the latest episode on YouTube, you will find 1 billion reviews and videos of people saying, like, oh, yeah, I just watched this, my opinion on it. They're in it for the views, and that's always been a little bit of a bother for me. I had that too, I gotta admit, with my previous channel. I remember going to certain conventions to snag footage of games that I wasn't even really interested in, to get like that quick view. Like I remember making a video on the Wonderful 101 before it wasn't even called that. I think it was still called the Wonder Team or something like that. And I didn't care about the game, but hey, I got 10,000 views, so yeah, get them ads. I just really want stuff like that to go back to like those high school conversations on the square, like you're talking about, hey, you see that latest trailer? Yeah, man, what did me? I can't wait for that game. And that was generally it. Sometimes you would speculate a bit more. Well, I just really hate how forced it is, generally. Like, and how people try to make it their shtick. Like, they make one video on, I found this really obscure pot in God of War trailer, and suddenly they're the obscure God of War channel. And every video has to start with, hey guys, I'm your boy Roy! Even that was a joke, because I do that too. But at least I try to be different, I guess. No, I don't. I try to be me. I think that's one of the most important things when you're making a YouTube channel. Like, you don't do it unless you really want to make it like your business. Like, I don't know. Like Dark Side Phil. Yeah, there we go. You want to make it your business and actually make it like your main job. Of course, then you got to take it seriously. But for me, it's like, it's a hobby. And I do what I want. I remember that was one of the reasons I really had trouble uploading my previous channel. Here, just keep an eye out for the sound cues, by the way. Is I did what I thought I should do instead of just doing what I wanted. So I remember people saying like, oh, you should record this game or record that game, and then I did it. And you should make this type of commentary or buy a capture card, so I did that. And if there's one thing I really hate, it's editing. Because it takes up a lot of time, and that's the only thing I do with this channel that I don't like, is editing. And I try to do it in a fun way, so I always have my phone next to me with Netflix, and I just watch a show. Fun story, while editing, like last month, I watched the whole of Breaking Bad again. Like the entire series. It's just fun to watch something while you're editing, because it's not that difficult to do. But for instance, yeah, I really wanted to do God of War again. I was like, yeah, but channel variety should cover other games. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do a pain run. Just fuck it. One time I really want to do another Metal Gear Rising run, but I don't feel like it right now, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna force myself. Which is something I used to do. This has been a really weird conversation. Is there a fight here? Yeah, no, not really. Oh yeah, here I screw up. You gotta go the other way. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's my gripe about YouTube. Just people don't. A lot of times I feel like they do it because they talk the way they do because they want to get views, and they make content the way they do because they want to make views. It's just something that annoys me. But one thing that annoys me the most, and I honestly, if there's someone watching this right now and listening to this commentary and has a YouTube channel with like subscribers into the hundreds or thousands or millions or whatever, can you please answer this question for me? This is for that one viewer that might be like that. If you get a comment, why don't you reply? Maybe like, I honestly don't get it. Like, for me, even when I was in my job, like, if you wanted more information about that, you can watch, I think it's the third Devil May Cry video. But I had a pretty hellish job. Like, I was working day and night, 7 days a week. And even then, when I got a comment, I had like this notification on my phone. I was like, oh my god, I got a comment! And I replied very detailed. Like, sometimes the guy would just say, hey, nice job. And I'd be like, thanks, man, really super enthusiastic. I just loved having people watch my content and reply to it and say that they liked it or that they had a question. And I was never really defensive. Like, if they said, oh, you suck, I'm like, oh, okay, try it. Do better, friend. Show me a video. I looked at your channel and I see this and this and this, but and then I go to other channels. Like, I'm a big fan of the Gaming Brit Show and shows like Matthew Myphosis. And granted, they get like 1,000 comments, but they don't reply to any of them, like, at all. And I'm like, do you read them? Do you not care? Is it really too much of a bother? I mean, I can imagine that responding to 1,000 comments is like an hour a day. But these are your fans, man. Like, that's the... Oh, but season titties! Yeah! I remember the first time I watched this cutscene, I was like, hey, she's absolutely naked. Huh. This game is amazing. Oh yeah, I might have to edit this. No, nobody watches this channel, so I can just do whatever the fuck I want. I think I could actually cut to like a clip from Pornhub right here, like of some brutal Kratos cosplay porn, and nothing would happen to my channel because nobody is gonna report me and watches it. So that's actually pretty funny. I hope that one day I get really popular, and then someone who watches this video like, oh, I wonder what he did when he was unpopular. And then clicks on it like, oh my god, I'm so disturbed, and then reports me. But sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the bother of editing in a porn video. What was I saying again? Yeah, comments. I honestly don't get it. why people don't reply to it. Like, it would, when I get one measly comment, I'm like, holy shit, somebody replied. I'm like, yeah. And when I had one really popular video on my previous channel, which was where I showed a little trick in Ninja Gaiden 3. I think that video got like 10,000 views or something and a couple of hundred comments. I replied to every one of them. Like, I was so ecstatic that I had these fans, and compared to TV and movies and stuff, as a creator, you can really talk to your fans and people that watch the content. So I really don't get that. And I'm really sorry, guys, by the way, for going so off topic and not talking about God of War at all. But yeah, that's just something that's been on my mind. Like, what's the thought process behind that? Like, if somebody can tell me, please let me know. Like, what's the reason that when somebody says a comment like, hey, great job, or hey, why didn't you do that in the video? Why don't you respond? Just a curiosity. This coming up, oh, another save that I missed. I'm gonna go upstairs here just to show you that some players might miss it, and I wanted to show it because I haven't been here in a while. This is actually where the ending takes place, and I really like that they did this. You can go here and the statue is even frozen. She doesn't answer your prayers. And you can go to the edge where Kratos is going to contemplate suicide. And he like has his premonition like, oh, feels important somehow. I really like that little detail, and I wanted to include it because of that. Up next is the sewers, and the sewers are mostly going to be skipped. I'm going to do the first fight, I believe, partially at least, to get the health orbs from the Minotaur. What are they called again? Oh yeah, the Minotaur hammer grunts, I believe. When they're gonna be coming up next. First we got these guys. Wow, so much talking. I've been talking for nearly 45 minutes. But luckily I'm really good at talking. Let's just keep talking about YouTubers. I've had this conversation with I'm not sure if I should keep calling him Dick Benedict or Big Benedict. His old channel was Big Benedict, but he renamed himself to Dick Benedict. And he's one of the, in my opinion, one of the best gaming channels on YouTube. Like, he has this big collection of games being beaten on the hardest difficulty setting. Sometimes challenge runs, mostly for God of War, because he's a big fan of that series. And he has, I think, 9,000 subscribers, and he replies to a lot of his comments. If I message him on Twitter, he usually immediately replies. He's really just an outspoken person, really social, and also really confrontational. Like, if somebody would say like, hey Dick, your videos suck, he will fuck them up. And we talked about video game channels, like good players versus bad players. And what you generally see is that good players have like between 100 and a couple of thousand subs, and horrible players have like between 50,000 and a couple million. And this always interests me because I'm part of the problem. Do I get hit by the shock? No, I don't get hit by the shockwave. When I look at channels in my free time, like video game related stuff, like I'm subscribed to all the big guys. I'm subscribed to Fuck Ninja, who's the best Ninja Gaiden player. His real name Shower. Nah, not real name obviously, but his gaming name is Shower. I'm subscribed to Seraphim, Dick Benedict. Who else? Mitomi, I think her name is. TMO, all the big names. But in my free time, I generally, like, unless I'm really in the mood, like, oh, I want to see some kick-ass Ninja Gaiden play, I watch DSP or like his fail montages, mostly because I don't want him to get any views off of me. Or I watch PewDiePie, like playing a horror game or sucking ass at Bayonetta or Souls, because it's just so much more fun to see someone fail at something, because that's funny. Yeah, if someone just beats the ass of a game, it's interesting. But mostly if you're here, I'm just gonna roll past, because fuck this fight. I'm almost at the end of the video, so I gotta close it off. But it's something that interests me. Like, people that are skilled barely get any views unless they make guides to help people out, but even then, it's not the showmanship. So yeah, about that, I'm always a bit on the fence, because personally I'm part of the problem, I understand it, but on the other side, it's really disheartening, because you have all these great players, like it would be great if they could also like get the recognition they deserve, because they deserve it a whole lot more because of the skill, time, and effort they put into it. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This has been going on for way too long, and the video is already over. Whew. All right, next up video is gonna be this the desert. It's gonna be a lot shorter. It's mostly gonna be me fighting the sirens. And yeah, that's gonna be it. I will see you guys next time. Hope you have a good evening or afternoon or morning or wherever the fuck you watch this video. Seriously, if you stuck it out to the end, that's 50 minutes of me talking to a screen, like a really small screen, praying that my video isn't even gonna crash and I have to record all of this all over again. You are a serious badass, a fan, and I really, really appreciate you as a person. Please, if you watched this video and you finished it, leave a comment. Like, say, like, hey, I watched it till the end, and I will thank you, because I like reading comments, and that's really the big thing I get out of this. Again, have a great day. Hope to talk to you soon. Cheers.
Hey, do your job.